Hello, hello, hello. Today, we're going to be messing with Node Wars. We're going to be kind of just talking about builds. We're going to talk about the performance. We're going to talk about just kind of how it's been. Obviously, it's day one. I just did the first cap Node War yesterday at T3. It was good. It was fun. Got a lot of kills. A lot of our guys had fun. Max numbers. It was fun. It was great. We had absolutely a phenomenal Node War. And I just want to say that PA is doing a good job for once. This is actually like the most positive change they've ever done. They've got the pieces here. Now, all they have to do, fix the performance to where we can actually play the game at a functional level, and there you go, we have a game. We're good. I still plan on quitting. Don't get it twisted. Like, I just don't see the longevity anymore because with Cap Node Wars, there's actually nothing to work for. Like, I can just, if I want to, like, hey, let's go play BDO and go Node War, I could just do that whenever. Like, it doesn't make a difference now. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think that's the way for a lot of players now because there's just, you know, there's nothing to work towards. I mean, you can still get it for the sake of achievement, but there's not really a reason to grind for gear if all you care about is Node Wars. And then when AOS comes out, even more reason not to because the gear's capped in there too. And if they ever go the route of capping RBF as well, then I mean, hey, there you go. Game's fully capped now. The only thing that's uncapped is open world, and the only people that are going to do that are the actual people that are geared as hell. And people are going to steer away from that if they don't need it anymore. So I think because of these changes, open world will inevitably die at some point. But other than that, it's going to be kind of whatever. Like Node Wars are going to be where it's at. Siege is going to be where it's at, and open world is going to be just, it's going to be there. It's going to be for those that like to go around griefing and goofing around, but that's kind of really it. You're never going to find any real fights anymore, I don't think, once these actually settle in. Anyway, enough about that. Let's go over the builds here, okay? So I want to talk about these builds because these are actually very positive. So right away, as you can see from this goofy setup that I got going on here, we are well under the T1 basic caps, okay? So you have tier 0, which is basically just tier 0 as is. It's T1s, but there's the caps as low as physically possible. Then you have tier 1, which is literally intermediate. It's still a T1 node comparatively to this, but just the AP caps and everything's a little bit higher, so you can kind of, you know, get a little bit more creative with builds if you need to. Even still, with a build as basic as this, with, you know, Tuvala gear and your green offhands and main hands, which by the way, these are Rosars. If you didn't know, you could get a 2-set effect with ignore all resistance with a Rosar, and you get all special attack, which is pretty good. Absolutely mandatory for caps. You now need a green offhand at all times, and it doesn't matter if you run an AP1 or a Rosar, as long as you have this is all that matters right here. However, the 2-set effect is actually pretty good. 10% ignore all resistant. That's fat. That's actually pretty good. So if you can afford to get a pen, or hell, you can even get a tet, to be honest, and you're still functioning with this, and I mean, it's still good. I mean, both of these weapons are like a bill on the marketplace, so it's not like you're, you know, you could make a bill at Centaurs in like less than 2 hours. So I'm just saying, you shouldn't have any issues buying these two weapons in general. However, the caps are pretty good. For tier 0, 245 AP, which that's overall AP, mind you, overall AP. That's not like 245 sheet. As you can see, 192, 193, 337. That's the AP to reach over 245. So you can get creative with builds. As you can see, I'm running Chimeras. I'm running a Kaya necklace, 2 Rosar weapons. The rest is Tuvala stuff. You could experiment. I put a red coral earring just for the sake of example, 50 stamina, and you're still well over the cap. So that's, you know, do whatever you got to do to, you know, mix your build up, find options that you can mess around with. But the mandatory thing that you should be running for tier 0 would be Chimeras, Kaya, and 2 Rosars. Mandatory. You should be running those at all time. Now, the interesting thing here is crystal builds, okay? Now, you can't get as creative on T1s because the HP is capped, right? So you can't get too creative in that department, which kind of sucks if I'm being honest, because, you know, like it's kind of just, it sucks. It just really sucks. And I think if you could get a little more creative, like, I don't know, like for example, if you could put like 5 corrupteds in for the critical hit damage, I think that'd be funny. But obviously that'd be broken for many reasons. But yeah, like I said, crystals, it doesn't really matter. Tier 1 Node Wars are kind of just there to help you get a feel for how large scale works. You know, shot callers get to experiment, get to have fun. You know, most of the guilds on there are kind of mid, and they can kind of, you know, just kind of dive into each other and LARP for a few hours, you know? So they kind of, it's just kind of like the fledgling battlegrounds where you're learning. That's the idea of T1s, which is why the caps are like this. So you can learn how to play your class. press, engage, disengage, follow pings, follow your shot caller's orders, things like that. Gear is supposed to play less of a part in T1s, more so than you learning how to actually play and move your character in large scale, because once you learn how to do that, then you start wanting to move to T1s and T2s and T3s higher, right? And you want to take those skills with more gear so that way you can have more fun. Because on these two right here, tier 0 and tier 1, you are incredibly tanky. You are very tanky on these node wars. So naturally, you want to learn how to move your character in and out of combat, be able to survive, stay protected, learn how to kill with low gear score, because if you can kill with low gear score, you can kill with high gear score, especially on tankier targets, because everyone's tanky on these node wars. So these caps, don't worry too much about the gear. Like I said, you can get away with full seasonal, Tuvala, the whole 9 yards. You don't got to do anything on these T1s. Like you could literally wear literal garbage and you'll still meet the caps. These two node wars, tier 0 and tier 1, just for the learning experience. You want to learn how to play the game. That's it. We get to T2, okay? Now the cap's much larger. It bumps the AP up to 514, okay? This is where gear is going to be a bit more necessary, okay? So as you can tell right here, we've got kind of this basic build going on. Full pen armors, Tet Black Stars, and a C7 AP shield, okay? And then Capocha accessories, of course. I think I may have already said that. I don't remember. But anyway, with this setup here, we're actually good. And we're running a relatively standard crystal build for HP. So if we take a look here at the HP build, we're running 2 Jin special Evas for the 100 HP, okay? Elcars, and then we're running Kobe's. We don't need Vipers, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And then we got Hanhums and then Rebellious Crystals, okay? Now, the reason we are running Kobe's and not Jin's is because the accuracy is actually not that important. As you can see, the cap is 757, okay? We're running like 2 sets of Hanhums, right? For the set effect, so that we have the 4. And that gives us a ton of HP and accuracy. And as for buffs, we are running the house buff for accuracy, just so you can meet the cap. I still don't think it's actually necessary, but you can, run it if you want. You could forego it and go AP, and you're still over it, as you can see. See, if you run the AP one, you're still over, which is fine. It's great. 757, like, that's good. You meet the caps and everything. You're over this cap too. The only thing is your evasion. I mean, obviously I have a DR build going right here, but if you were to, like, let's just say for the sake of example, let's put levers here and we'll just, put this like that. So as you can see with this now, we have a bit of an issue where, we're still lacking in the EVA department. So you're still going to need to, run something that is going to give you EVA to where you're going to, maybe run the EVA house buff, which would probably meet the caps. I mean, hell, you could even swap crystals around too. Let's just swap some of these around real quick. So let's take these Kobe's, right? And we'll just put Harfias, okay? So we'll run Jin Harfias in here, put that, and then save that here. And then we'll reselect this. I think it's this one right here. Yeah, there we go. So we put 2 Jin Harfias and bada bing, bada boom. We meet the EVA caps. Pog. Now you might be wondering, well, we don't meet the the accuracy caps. Guess what? We go back to the house buffs, right? Boom. Put on the not EVA. I'm sorry. What is it? Accuracy house buff, and bam, now we're at the EVA caps and we're also at the accuracy cap too. DR is whatever, it's 354. That just comes with Kafras. If you if you C9 your gear, right, you do this for example, and then you go Fallen God at duo. You see, there you go, you meet the caps. Hell, you wouldn't even need this realistically. Let's just say you get Pry Fallen God and like what, C4 everything. Let's just put everything at C4 just for the sake of example, right? So we're just under the cap. If you at C4 Pry Fallen God, okay? So what? We go to C7 here, we go to C7 there, boom. 2 C7 pieces and a C4 boot, bada bing, bada boom. You basically meet all the caps for T2. And mind you, like I said, you can mix and max like crystals, right? Like you can do all kinds of different builds to reach, whatever you're lacking in. If you're lacking in AP, put some human damage and AP crystals in. If you're lacking in accuracy, put like an Elcar in, or put, whatever you need to put in there to meet the caps. And if you meet everything, forget it. Just put in HP, because T2 plus Node Wars do not have HP caps. So you can just dump Hanhums, you can put Rebellious in there, Jins in there, Kobe's in there, and just stack HP like a madman, which is kind of a little sus because there's a lot of classes that benefit from HP, like Warrior, for example. Our forward guard is literally based around HP. So, that's a little weird. And, they could function off a low AP too. So you're not really stacking a lot of, RBF shit when it comes to Warriors. You're just kind of, HP. And that's kind of like, what you're doing. Not every class is like that though, so just bear that in mind. That's just a small example of what you can do with classes that, you know, may or may not need those certain aspects of a character for crystals and meeting caps. But even so, T2, like I said, look at this, 262, 264, bro. You basically are halfway there outside of seasonals. Like, come on, like this is so easy to get now. Like 616 gear score, this is dust. This is like 2 weeks of grinding, bro. Like, this is nothing. This is full composure accessories, mind you. Like, this is like the most basic bare bones build here that you can, you know, muster at this point. So now let's get to T3. Okay, now the cap's 572, so that's a little bit higher. It's like 286 AP is what you're going to want to reach, right? So with this one, we're gonna have to get a little creative. So again, we're gonna go back to the AP house buff, and then for now we're going to try and see what we can do to, well, we're gonna go back to DR as well. Hold on real quick, because I don't really care about this EVA stuff. In my opinion, EVA kind of sucks now. But anyway, so 572. Okay, so what can we do to increase our AP? So let's start with a full AP build. If we go full AP monkey with, you know, 6 powers, 2 red fangs, and then corruptions and rebellious, look at that. We just with swapping the crystal build, we already almost meet the AP caps. Granted, our accuracy is straight dust, but that's not the point. I'm just saying, example of how you can, you know, reach certain caps. We're gonna have to settle some gear, right? So we're gonna go ahead, boom, Crescent Guardian from the Jatina questline, Pog. All right, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna grab a tongue grad ring. We're gonna put the percentage on this one because Pog. All right, so look at that, boom. With just 2 switches right there, we're good, and we can kind of mess around with our builds again, so we can go back to a decent RBF build. So for this one, we've got dark red fang crystals. Okay, we've got some RBFs, we've got vipers, and we've got Elcar. So we have the accuracy, we have the human damage, and we have the percentage crit, which is very important. And then we have some DR on the dark reds. So just like that right there, you know, AP's met, accuracy is met, which is arguably the most important thing. Now DR is not really met here. This is kind of this is a little slow, but we can fix that, right? So let's say you grinded, right? Full C9 gear. Okay, that's let's put that there. C9 here, and then duo Fallen God. Look at that, baby. Boom. 407. 407. And even still, that's with duo Fallen God at, let's say right here. You know, C7, 1 C9, and duo Fallen God. Pog. Easy. So now there's not really much for you to do. I mean, the accuracy rate is entirely based around your class. It changes from class to class, and you can change this modifier at any given point. You know, if I headbutt with my Zerker, I go up to like 30% accuracy rate. So that's a whole different conversation, but this is not something you want to worry about. And spec Evas, it's okay. I think some people are going to want to build this later down the line. Like, for example, when you're doing crystals, you're going to want to look into that, where, you know, you're putting these in, considering this in your build and everything, and working with that. But like, I feel like if you're geared, you can get away with, you know, messing with this. But when you're not geared, this is not really as important unless you can hit these AP and DR caps, and accuracy, of course. But spec Eva is kind of massive, to be fair. So once you're able to reach the AP, DR, and accuracy caps, or if you're Eva, then obviously the Eva cap too, then that's when you can start worrying about special, you know, attack, because that is going to be really the difference on like whether or not you're tanky or not. And mind you, if you're curious, right, these, you know, Jin Glorious Crystals of Honor, right, this is 100 HP. This is all you get out of this. Like, you know, 10% special Eva, you already can get this right now. Like, I have 35 of these crystals just sitting in my marketplace right now, and like 100 sitting in my Heidel storage. So, you know, I already know what 20% spec Eva feels like. It's tanky. It really is tanky, especially with these tanks, with these like tanky builds that you can run with HP and everything. I'm gonna be like almost unkillable on my Suck Zerk or my Suck Warrior. Like, I'm gonna be a madman, just holding block and running around everywhere. So I think spec Evas might be a problem in T3s, but that's, you know, for the, you know, for future reference. I can't, it's too early to tell right now until people can get those crystals, but I'm already wearing 20% spec Eva, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it's tanky. It's really tanky. I think certain classes are gonna benefit from it a lot more than others, for sure. But yeah, overall, I do think it's nuts. Now, I do want to answer some questions about cups, because I actually have had this conversation before. Now, a lot of people are really leaning towards the HP cups. Me personally, I have found a lot of success with the percentage. I do think it hits a bit harder on Node Wars, but it is absolutely like negligible off caps, if I'm being honest. Like grinding and Node War caps, I do think it does make a difference. However, if you are a class that benefits from HP, then this might be better. Like honestly, like I have two sets, right? So I have like two accessories that I swap out all the time. So one, I have a pen cadre that I use on occasion whenever I'm open worlding. So on my warrior, I run a pen cadre like this, but obviously this is impossible for caps. So what I've done is I've basically foregone my my two pen eye of the ruins, right? So when I want to run crit, I basically run two Tet Tungrad rings because I don't have pens, and I will run them with percentage crit. So this is what I do, and I'm running double pen black star with like with you know pen necks and everything. So it's a bit, you know, skewed, right? Obviously you can't really do that if you're not that geared. But so what I'll do is I'll swap these out for the percentage crit to try them out and just to see if it makes a difference. And me personally, like I said, I feel like I hit harder with this percentage crit than I do with the HP. Obviously I'm not going to hit harder with the HP, but you get what I'm saying. I think the crit is much more valuable on Zerker just to do more damage. Like I could be wrong about that, but maybe I'm just, you know, imagining this, but I really do feel like this, I hit harder with this over like my normal build that I run. Play around with it, experiment. I feel like I hit like a truck, but it is what it is. And yeah, as for the crystal preset changes, you know, just chef's kiss, honestly. Like this is just, this is, God. This is great. This is great. Not being able like to have to, you know, remove crystals every 5 seconds, you know, change around, experiment, like just having that freedom is so fun and so nice. And it's so good for the game too, because people are finding new builds and new like meta stuff every time. And that's great. And as long as, you know, they keep it fresh too by implementing maybe new crystals and things like that, that could be something to experiment with that later down just to keep it fresh. But it's really good, honestly. Having 50 crystal slots, like I've already maxed out my entire crystals. I have like every relevant crystal in my build already, so like I just went and bought everything and saved up everything and just put every crystal that matters in there, minus the ones that we haven't got from the shop yet. But yeah, I mean, overall crystal setups are great. The caps on Node Wars are really fun. There's myriads of ways you can meet the caps via crystals, via buffs too. Remember, church buffs, tent buff, droughts, any elixir rotations, like all of those count towards AP caps or HP. Any caps can be, you know, met through buffs and crystal setups. So you just kind of have to experiment with what you can do. I highly recommend hopping on Garmoth and just like experimenting and going to town. If you plan to do T2 plus, hop on here, mess around with crystal builds and find something that works for your gear and what you can do to swap around to make sure you meet the proper caps, because that's the most important thing. AP, DR, EVA, and your accuracy. Those are the most important caps. If you can meet all of those, you are good to go. That goes for any cap really, but just you want to hop on here and experiment with that. And as far as the siege caps, I mean, everything's still the same here. Everything's still the same. Nothing's really changed that much. It's still the same. But yeah, hopefully this kind of helps you out to some degree. If you have any specific questions, I will do my best to answer them down below. Remind you, this is day one. This is just me, first impressions and everything, nothing set in stone. That's why I didn't really want to give any specific build that you should run. This is just what I've, you know, experimented with personally and what I've messed around with. And for those of you that are well under geared, more or less than me, that you're going to have to, you know, find some concessions to work with that are going to fit your build more appropriately than what I'm suggesting perhaps. But yeah, overall positive update. Good job, PA. For once, fix the game now, just make it run well, and you've got yourself a solid game. And I think a lot of players will come back and enjoy it. But for right now, the performance, actually, I do want to get into that. It is pretty laggy. You know, 70-man Node Wars, and like, you know, people are pulling up with like 40 plus, even that. Like, dude, we're having a mini siege out here. I will say the performance is not as bad as Siege, but it is still very unplayable for some characters. Like my buddy was on Sork, and he was, you know, he's my flex lead. Dude, every time he cocked back the Grim, he just lagged. He just lagged and couldn't get it off, and he would die in the Grim. And with the caps, now that he's not as tanky and he doesn't have the, you know, tankiness to survive holding Grim, super obnoxious, super obnoxious. He can't even play his class at the highest level because of the lag. So if you can fix the lag, which it should be the priority now, Node Wars, don't touch anymore. Leave it alone. Do not touch Node Wars anymore. Leave it as is and focus on performance. Don't give me any more new areas to grind. Don't give me nothing. Fix the game. If you fix performance, I will shut up about this game forever. You give us next gen port and you make the lag go down to like negligible percent to where I don't have to care anymore. You've got a game. I'll shut up. I'll shut up forever. I'll sing praises for the time forever. Just fix the game and you are perfect. That is all you have to do now. No new grind areas. Don't give me no more chore content. Don't give me anything. Fix the game and you're golden. That's all you have to do is just fix the game. I'm gonna end on that note. Thank you guys. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.